And a good evening, good day, wherever you are. It is right now Saturday, April 12th, 2025, 11:11 p.m. Hey, that's good luck, 11:11. They say if you ever look at a clock and you see 11:11, it's a sign of good luck. So for this video, we're going to be walking from Laval, which is where we are here, which is just north of Montreal. Also known as Jesus Island, believe it or not. The entire island of Laval is known as Jesus Island. And this street that we're about to go on here is Curé-Labelle, which is this one right here, which is a northwest street. And this one here is Lévesque Boulevard. This is Lévesque Boulevard. It's an east-west street. So let's head towards Montreal. So for this video, we're going to walk across the bridge here as we leave the corner of Lévesque Boulevard and Curé-Labelle Boulevard. They're both boulevards, by the way. And if you're wondering, we are facing in the south direction right now. So just took the 144 STL bus here and got off there at the corner where I started the video, where you see the bus stop back there. And there it shows you our temperature in degrees Celsius. I just said it. It was 7 degrees Celsius, it said. And there's the City of Laval logo. Sort of looks like two rectangles. And good timing. Here's an STL bus. Look at the number of the bus, the fleet number, 1111. That's a coincidence. So we started the video at 1111, and that is, which route? The 28, I believe. And see if we can get the temperature to pop up here again. There it is. And that time is wrong. It says 11:26. It is indeed 11, almost 11:14 p.m. now. As with a lot of outdoor displays, usually it's quite common where the times are wrong. And I don't know if even that temperature is right. I mean, it feels about 7 degrees Celsius. Looks like here, this building must have burnt down recently. So again, we're walking south here, and we're going to be crossing this bridge here, which will take us right into the island of Montreal. And as always, a shout out to any Quebec viewers or Quebec YouTubers or Quebec friends. Specifically, I should say Laval viewers, Laval friends, Laval YouTubers. And the reason I say Quebec, thinking of Quebec Buff, who's a buddy here that lives in Laval, Fire Buff. So hello to all the Laval YouTubers, Laval viewers, Laval friends. Yeah, you can smell, it's definitely burned down. I don't know when, maybe must have been recent. So we're going to be crossing here the Rivière-des-Prairies, or the Prairie River, which is the northern part of the St. Lawrence River between Montreal and Laval. And then you have the Montreal River, which is an even more northern part of St. Lawrence River between Laval and the North Shore, such as Dumontagne and Terrebonne, all those areas. And Montreal, of course, is French for 1,000 islands. So the reason they call it that is, if you ever go between Laval and the North Shore of Laval, you'll see there's quite a few little islands there, probably literally 1,000 of them. I remember a few years ago, I rented a kayak and got to go through the islands. That was really cool. There's the 55, that's 1419 fleet STL bus. And these buses, by the way, are coming from Montreal to bring people into Laval, because there's not really a metro in this part of Laval, although they started talking about doing studies and stuff to extend the metro into this part of Laval. And of course, we do have a metro in Laval, but it's east of here, Montmorency, Cartier Station, de la Concorde. Of course, those are the three newest metro stations, technically, and they opened in 2006. So that was an extension of the Orange Line. So you have Henry Bourassa, and then it extended north into Laval in 2006. Henry Bourassa was, of course, the last, it's the last station on the Orange Line in Montreal, sort of on the east side of the island. And as I said, in 2006, they extended it to Laval, and then you have, of course, in Laval, Cartier, de la Concorde, and Montmorency. By the way, here's a look at what the STL Laval bus stops look like. I like the bluish color. STL sort of has some green, blue, and white. While we're here, check out the water levels. I haven't really seen what the water levels are like this spring, so take a little, I guess, stop here by the water and check it out. I don't anticipate spring flooding. Really no ice, there's no snow, so I don't think we're going to see any spring flooding unless we get a ton of rain. We'll see what the river looks like here. Take a little peek. Probably see it from here. Yeah, water looks average. Yeah, I don't see any major inundation or flooding. Put this on here, this flash. Yeah, well, when the spring flooding was happening, 2017, 2019, the water would be right up to this fence over here. Probably even higher when it reached its peak. And by the way, this is facing, as I said, towards the west island of Montreal is down here. This, I believe, is Ahuntsic-Cartierville. And we're also near the Saint Laurent borough of Montreal. There's another view of the river. Sort of zoom in here a bit. Just a wide angle camera. Of course, it is nighttime, but figured why not do a nighttime walking video. And yeah, I used an evening pass tonight to get to Laval, and didn't really go far into Laval, just one stop. But seeing that it's Saturday, I may take advantage of this evening pass and maybe go other places with it, since the metro's open later. I see a lot of leaves going by here and debris. Can't really see it on the camera, I don't think. But by the way, there's multiple ways to get from Laval to Montreal. There's a train bridge just to our east, and that, of course, is part of the Saint Jerome line. So the Saint Jerome line, where that train is, there's a bridge where the train goes over, and there's a little path beside it. I do have videos of that. I also did a video of this walk as well, version of this walk before. So the question is, which bus will I take when I get to Montreal, which is right over here in front of us. Forgot the name of this bridge, but street we were on, as I mentioned, is Curé-Labelle. And then when we get across the bridge here, I think we're going to be on... Well, we're first going to be intersecting Gouin Boulevard eventually. But can't remember the exact configuration of the streets around here. As I said, it's been a while since I really did a walking video in this area, and even in general been around here. I do know at one point we will reach Gouin Boulevard though. Or is it Laurentian Boulevard that this street is going to turn into? Or Laurentian Boulevard. Maybe it's Laurentian Boulevard. We'll see. And we are officially now in Montreal. Over here used to be Belmont Park. This was an amusement park apparently. Around here, this was a big amusement park. Well, not big, but back in the day it was sort of a very popular amusement park. This is going back probably what, maybe the 50s, 60s, 70s? Around that time. I know George, shout out to George as well, he's in Edmonton. George, of course, has tons of stories, many stories about this area here. Alright, so there's, we got a plane taking off from Trudeau Airport, heading east. Who knows where it's going. And the beautiful thing about whether it's Laval or Montreal, if you're by the water, you're blessed with beautiful bike paths and pedestrian paths. In fact, there's a little map here. Let's check this out. Le Sentier, which means the path. Yeah, so this is a bike path. This has been around for a while. They probably did some renovations and stuff over the years, but this path can take you from Oka to Mont Saint-Hilaire. And here it is. Look, you can actually see this path, all the different places it goes. I'm going to do that bike ride one day. Love to. And there you can see where the bike path is. So, pretty cool. Alright, so yes, just as I assumed, this is Laurentian Boulevard. So we're now on Laurentian Boulevard. There it is right there. Which is kind of ironic because the Laurentians are north of us. Technically where Laval is closer to the Laurentians than here. I think the Laurentians technically start in Saint Jerome. And it's funny, they call this Laurentian Boulevard and it's south of Laval, but that's Montreal for you, I guess. So Gouin Boulevard is probably up there where the next traffic light is. I'll probably cut the video at that spot. Probably end up walking to the 69 stop, maybe STM 69 bus. Take that to Henry Bourassa. We'll see how our time is, as it's 11:25 right now. Metro, of course, closes at around 1 a.m. on Saturday into Sunday. Technically 1 a.m. Sunday, but we can technically say Saturday overnight. That's our night of the week where we get extended hours on the Metro system. And for comparison, here is an STM sign right here, STM bus stop sign here for Montreal coming up. Wonder when that 180 is coming up. 180 I think goes right to Côte-Vertu as well. And the 69 goes to Henry Bourassa. And of course you have the 64 bus, which is where the 69 bus starts. And the 69 goes east. Not just to Henry Bourassa Station, but past Henry Bourassa. And Gouin Boulevard, by the way, where we're coming out now, this next intersection where we're going to be turning onto. This street here, I think is the longest one in Montreal. This street goes all the way from the eastern tip of the island, Point aux Trembles, or Tremblay Point, far eastern tip of the island, all the way to the western tip of the island, where Senneville and Cap Saint Jacques are. Pierrefonds, Senneville, around there. Lands l'Orme region, I think it's called, but specifically, I guess, Senneville, around there. And it turns into Senneville Boulevard, Senneville Road, and Senneville Road curves into Saint Anne de Bellevue. And then technically it becomes Lakeshore Boulevard. And if you really want to argue, you can say Lakeshore Boulevard goes all the way into LaSalle from the West Island, but that one's on the southern part of the island, and this is the northern part of the island, so kind of cool. So yes, this is Gouin West. So this is such a big street, of course they have to name it East and West. I believe this is Ahuntsic-Cartierville. If you keep walking this direction south, you'll eventually get to Saint Laurent. So maybe some of you are in this area, you may know of this street. You know what, we'll walk all the way to the 69 stop, why not? Might as well make the video a bit longer. Let's see here. Pause the video until we get the cross signal. And to show you how mixed this area is, we have different types of restaurants here. Look at this. We have Casablanca, and we have a Tunisian restaurant. And that's just two of many around here. Very, very mixed melting pot of different cultures, ethnicities in this area. Probably one of the most diverse areas of Montreal, arguably. Yeah, we're definitely in Cartierville because there's a sign talking about the Cartierville Community Center. So now we're walking east. So again, this is where the 68 bus begins around here. 68 goes west all the way to Cap Saint Jacques. Very memorable bus for me. Very historic bus. There's another STL bus. Yeah, because the 68 is, of course, one of the, along with the 64, took the 64 from Côte Vertu and then got on the 68, headed to the West Island. That was in January 2005. The reason I remember that is because that was pretty much the furthest I had ever gone on my own. So I remember that very clearly that day. Very beautiful moon and very memorable. I remember on the 68 they were actually playing the radio. I guess the driver's radio had classical music playing, which is of course my favorite type of music, one of my favorite types. So it added, I guess, to the specialness of that day. But it's amazing how long I've come. I've now covered probably every area of Montreal and other places around Montreal. And of course, if you're like me and you enjoy history, you enjoy how neighborhoods change over the years, I suggest going to Google Maps and checking out Google Street View, and you'll see how these communities have changed over the years. Google Maps, at least until 2007, 2006. And if you want to see earlier, of course, you got the good old-fashioned books for that, right? Libraries and whatnot. Yeah, you can tell we are having an election, April 28th. Here's Lachapelle. So we're about maybe 2 to 5 minutes away from our bus stop that we want to go to. Yeah, look, we got a ceiling fan up there, a wobbly one. For you ceiling fan fans out there. There you go. Alright, so make our way to the bus stop. And yeah, another thing about this area, of course, because it's so diverse, you have all kinds of different banks, clinics, pharmacies. And is it the next thing? It's the street, the block after this where we can get. We're going to see the 68 and the 64 bus stop. And a lot of these businesses have been here for decades, by the way, because it's such an old area. Especially a lot of the buildings themselves have been here for quite a while. Or some of them are 100 years old or so. So here's Ranger, I call it Ranger Street. So here we are now. You see how the signs, these are older signs. The one we saw where it was at Laurentian Boulevard, you'll notice it's sort of a newer type sign with the flower, the Montreal, City of Montreal logo, the flower. And I can go into details, but this, not specifically Ahuntsic-Cartierville, but for example, Saint Laurent, Pierrefonds, Westmount, a lot of these were independent cities once that had a lot of power to themselves. And eventually we became one island, one city. Municipal mergers, they were called, in the 2000s. Now, a lot of these places voted to demerge and become independent. But the only thing was, even though they became independent, they don't have as much power as they used to. They retained some of their original power, I guess, from when they were their own cities, but they didn't get all of it back. So here we are. This is Grenet Street, I believe. Yes, here we are. I don't know if that Tim Hortons is open. I'm gonna grab maybe an iced coffee. And yes, I do enjoy iced coffees in the cold. So here is Grenet Street. And speaking of the 68, there she is right there. This is the original stop from even when I was here for the first time, January 15th, 2005. Here there used to be a building. I remember the bricks kept falling down and it was there for decades. I think they finally tore it down recently. So, all right, we'll carefully cross here and I'll probably wrap it up. That's 2018 Nova Bus Hybrid LFS. All right, so thanks for watching, everyone. If you like this walking video, then be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, turn on your notification bells. And by the way, the 69 stop is just this way to the left, if you guys are wondering. All right, have a good night, everyone. More videos to come.